Hello, everyone. Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry.
What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jerry Judah, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the 14-Yard NFL Podcast.
Football is back. This is the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast. I'm your host, Sam Moores, and on Thursday night, the 2023 NFL season will kick off when the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, welcome the Detroit Lions to Arrowhead. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the key matchups in this game, picking where the game could be won and lost, and finishing off with our predictions too. Joining me to talk through the game is our resident Chiefs fan, co-host of the Full 10 Yards Betting podcast and the Go for Two podcast too, Liam Horsley. Welcome, Liam, mate. It's good to have you back on. Had you on a couple of weeks ago, and I had to get you on for the Chiefs game, obviously, kicking off the season.
I know, I've got to try and be as least biased as possible about one of the two teams. But no, it's exciting. I think we're all a bit like this, aren't we? I think a lot of us don't watch Thursday night football, maybe if you're in jobs and stuff, all the time. But I think for the first one, even non-Chiefs and Lions fans, I think they're all going to be watching, aren't they? It's going to be one of the most watched games of the year. So, yeah, exciting game. I'm looking forward to talking about it because I think it's actually going to be a good game as well, which is quite good for a Thursday opener because last year's wasn't very good, if you remember, because the Bills absolutely killed the Rams. And that was kind of the start for the Rams season, wasn't it? Everyone thought, the Bills could be the best team ever. And kind of looking back now, you're like, yeah, the Rams just unfortunately weren't a good team. But yeah, I think this Thursday the game should be a lot better, which is good.
Yeah, the Bills pass rush dominated the Rams offensive line in that game last year. But before we start, Liam, I'd just like to remind you all again that we are only a few days away from the first Sunday of the NFL season. And on Sunday, you can join us at Full 10 Yards in watching every one of Sunday's games at Felson's in Birmingham to celebrate the start of the season. Tickets are free, or you can choose to buy a bundle that pre-orders up to 6 drinks, with the drinks getting cheaper as you go along. So feel free to come along and meet our team and make some UK-based NFL fan friends too. It's gonna be a nice turnout for us, and I mean, I'm really looking forward to it. I know you're going to be there as well. It's going to be a good show on Sunday, isn't it?
Yeah, my team's not playing obviously on Sunday either, so I don't have the stress of having to sit there and watch your team. But I know, obviously, friends with a few of the guys in the group, and I know for the Bengals games, a couple of them are going to be quite nervous. The Browns games, obviously, Josh, the kind of head of our group, is a Browns fan. So yeah, it should be good. And I think from what Josh said, we got a good turnout already. So the more people come, the better it will be. Because it's a good venue as well. Might be a bit hot how the weather's looking, but it should be really, really fun.
Yeah, you mentioned the weather. We've had awful weather in the UK pretty much the entirety of the summer compared to the last 2 years. And then, we're at the start of September and they're like, oh, okay, let's go and have a heat wave. So, for the entirety of the week, it's going to be about 28, 29 degrees, which is really warm in UK housing, trust me. I've got my fan on very loud here, so I don't know if you can hear it. But, it's make do in this situation, really. But yeah, to get your ticket, visit www.full10yards.co.uk to sign up. And if you get a tweet as well, it's pinned to our Twitter page. That's probably the easiest way to go for it. And just sign up and you get your free ticket with that as well. And it's as simple as that. So I look forward to seeing you there. On to the game. The Chiefs are favoured by 6.5. Thanks to our friends at 8 Sport. And we'll start with the defense because there's news that obviously Chris Jones, the probably best defensive player in football other than Aaron Donald, would you say, potentially? I declared out, really, because he didn't report to camp. He's still on the reserve / did not report list, and he's holding out. He wants a $30 million contract, and he's been fined a lot, actually, over $2.5 million for not turning up and taking part in Chiefs camp at all, really. And every game he does miss, including the night on Thursday, is a further $1 million as well. So it's costing him a lot. But he really wants his contract, and it's going to be a big miss for the Chiefs, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. It's quite a good game for it to happen because obviously Lions' offensive line's very good anyway. So I'm not saying Chris Jones wouldn't have got pressure because he's obviously going to get way more pressure than anyone else. But I didn't envisage this as a game where we were going to be rushing the passer really, really well because I think they're probably got the second best line in the league. But yeah, it'll definitely be a big miss. Lions run the ball a lot, which thankfully is not Chris's strong point. So I think we'll be okay from that perspective. But yeah, on third down, you're going to see maybe, 3 or 4 drives where Jared Goff's got loads of time. Maybe he makes the pass, maybe he doesn't. But you'll be sat there at home watching it going, God, he's held the ball for like 3.5, 4 seconds here, and that unless Spags is blitzing, it'll basically be because Chris just hasn't got isn't there for any pressure. So yeah, I'm a bit different to most Chiefs fans. I'm kind of done with it. Not sure if I would extend him, to be honest. Definitely wouldn't extend him now. I'd wait to the end of the season. But yeah, it's been a strange situation because he's not really benefiting it anymore. Like I said, I think it's $1.1 million for every single game missed. I think he'll be at the 11 million mark-ish, 10 million if he does the whole 8 games that he's threatening to do. But that also makes his franchise tag next year only 18.5 million. At the moment, it would be 33. So he's costing himself money this year and money next year because I can guarantee you now the Chiefs aren't just going to let him go for free. They're going to tag him and trade him probably. So yeah, I'm not really sure why he's doing it anymore. There's been some reports of the numbers that have been leaked, and he's talking that he doesn't want Aaron Donald money, but then the report leaked is more than Aaron Donald. So
Yeah,
I think it's more his agents. His agents have kind of dropped the bag on this one. They probably thought the Chiefs would have buckled and just paid him whatever, and now they haven't. They kind of sat there like, oh my God, we've got to stay strong. So in a dream world for Chris Jones, the Chiefs win probably like 45-42. The defense looks a disaster, and the Chiefs come to him panicking with loads of money. But I just personally don't think that's gonna happen. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
So you mentioned obviously the Lions have been a great offensive line. Do you think they'll be able to generate any sort of pass rush at all without him? We know obviously Spags blitzes a lot compared to a lot of other play callers, but
Yeah.
you've lost Charles Amanda who's suspended for reasons off the field and things like that as well. So the defensive line is looking quite weak compared to where it might do at points this season. In general, what's your sort of take on that? Do you think you'll be able to generate enough pressure, or will it be very creative? Spags traditional stuff really.
Yeah, I think it'll be quite creative. I don't know how much obviously listeners know about some of the Chiefs players, but L'Jarius Sneed, who's practicing slot corner, probably the best blitzing corner in the league, and very well known for doing it. And he's got so good at it, they kind of fake him blitzing now to let someone else blitz. So I do think we'll see a lot of that. I think you'll probably see the first couple of drives, they might score 14 or 10, or they might not score, but you'll probably see a lot more kind of safe rushes just to feel out, can we get any pressure with 4? Any big third down, send a blitz. But other than that, I think the first couple of drives, it'll be quite kind of low on that. And then second half, I think you'll probably see Spags be Spags and sending people from all over the place. We did blitz less last year than we've ever blitzed before with Spags. But that's just because we had a really good front. Like the pressure, Chris Jones obviously had a great year. Carlos Dunlap actually had a really good year for the Chiefs. Obviously, they both won't be there Thursday. So I think he'll blitz enough, but I still think the first half you'll see a bit more conservative game plan. And like I said, he'll just get, like he did with the Giants, the 2 biggest defensive tackles they've got on the roster, stop the run. You just don't worry about rushing the passer. All you have to do is stop the run. And then third down, Spags will be Spags. And I actually do think the defensive line can stop the run. And this is a team that ran the ball a lot last year. They had a lot of play action. Obviously, Gibbs is going to be key to this game probably. They keep talking about him. So I think the defensive line probably won't get much pressure, but I do think the defensive tackles where Chris Jones would normally play could probably stop the run, which I think is good for this team. If we were playing the Bengals, I'd be like, they're going to score. Mahomes has to score 40 probably to win this game without Chris Jones, but because it's the Lions, I think they're going to run a bit more than some teams. So yeah, but yeah, I think you'll see a lot of blitzes in the second half.
There we are. You mentioned Jameer Gibbs. We'll go on to the Lions offense now. He'll be playing up against Chiefs defense, obviously. The Lions have got a whole new backfield basically with Jameer Gibbs who they drafted in the first round, which was many saw as a reach, but if everything out of training camp has been very positive on Jameer Gibbs, and they also paid David Montgomery as well. You mentioned last year Jamal Williams, they were one of the best teams running the ball in the league. I think they averaged about 120 yards a game, which is up there. And but to be fair, both of these teams were over 100 yards a game. So it'll be interesting to see how that shapes out this game. But so what are you expecting from the Lions offense? Because they've got rookies and Jameer Gibbs, as I mentioned. You've got Sam Laporta in there, who's been having a really big role at tight end, filling in for TJ Hawkinson, and they moved on from the trade deadline last year. I mean, it's a second year for Jared Goff in Ben Johnson's scheme as well, which is the real highlight for this Lions offense, because someone might to keep hold of him because he had head coaching interviews, and he's chosen to stick around in Detroit for another year, which is only going to be a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's kind of been picked as that next name. We always hear about these names, don't we? 2 or 3 years before they're head coaches. He's definitely the next guy that everyone talks about. In terms of how the offense is going to look, yeah, I'm not sure because they've got a very efficient offense, and normally you don't run the ball loads, especially on early downs, first and second down. You don't run it if you've got a good offense by analytics. But last year they did actually run the ball quite a bit on first down compared to most of the other teams that are in the top 10 offenses. And I just wonder, will he do that or will he not? I think the Chiefs will be begging him to run it. So I think the first drive will be interesting to see how much they do. I think this will be a big game for St. Brown in the slot. Chiefs were basically 28th in the league last year at defending slot corners by first down and by efficiency rankings. So I think he's going to play slot, kind of middle of the field, target those linebackers, target the safeties, which is a brand new safety combo for the Chiefs. And we've spoke about it before on this network that the Lions' second receiver, especially with Jameson being out, isn't great. So I kind of think
it's Marvin Jones and Josh Reynolds, right? So
yeah,
it's not.
And then Khalif Raymond as well, isn't it? Yeah, to open the field up a bit. So I think you'll see a lot of targets in the slot. I think you'll see a lot of targets of Sam Laporta in the slot. You'll see a lot of kind of Gibbs out the backfield, but probably in the middle of the field rather than kind of down the sides. So yeah, I think it'll be middle of the field, kind of a lot of running as well. I think they'll just want to see, can their offensive line, from a run perspective, move them? If they can't, I think Ben Johnson will just say, right, let's just drop back and throw it and keep up. That's one of the keys to the game, really, is how aggressive are they? If it's 4th and 3 from the 40, their own 40, are they going to do it? Do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like a team with this head coach, this OC, that probably will do it. And I think that'll be key to the offense. Just kind of stay on the field and limit Mahomes' possessions as much as you can. But I think we will see. I know you mentioned Gibbs and Laporta on our little rundown, and I think they're going to get healthy targets. If I'm a betting person, which I am, I probably would be betting on them and St. Brown to go over their receptions, because I just think in the middle of the field, the Chiefs have always been vulnerable, and they want it to be in the middle of the field so they don't get smashed over the top by 60-yard bombs. They want you to go on long drives. So yeah, I think it'll be a good night for anyone that catches out the slot for the Lions.
There we are. Moving over to the Chiefs offense. There's been a lot of talk about whether Kadarius Toney can be good to go or not. He's listed as questionable at the minute of a knee injury he got a couple of weeks ago. Would you say that he is a sort of secret sauce in this Chiefs offense? If you don't have him, it would be a big miss.
It's hard to know, isn't it?
Yeah, because you've got so many guys that you're asking who is Mahomes' next guy after Travis Kelce.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if you said last year with last year's weapons, you'd be like, oh, if they get to a top 6 or 7 offense, they've done really well, and then they were the best offense in the league by basically every statistic. I think it was actually the second best offense in NFL history by most advanced metrics. So
it led the league in passing yards per game as well. So it was very, very good from the criticism you got in the off season.
So I think Toney is the second best receiver outside of Travis Kelce. I don't know for this game if it'll be like, if he's out, it'll be a big miss, because I think they've kind of prepared for him maybe not to be there, and obviously now he looks like he's going to be there. And I think if he plays, it'll be like kind of 13, 14, 15 snaps. But every time he gets snaps, he gets the ball a lot. So I think he'll be key to it. For me, I think it'll just depend how the Lions defend. If the Lions kind of don't go for the too high looks all the time, I think MVS will probably be that second weapon, down the field. Had a really good camp, really good end to last season against the Bengals in the AFC Championship game. So, yeah, Toney's crucial, but I think that might be week 3, 4, 5 as we start to go down the season. People will start seeing him feature more and more. I think first week there'll be worst outcome for the Chiefs as he plays loads of snaps in the first quarter. He's not quite ready for it. He's injured again. I think that just knock his confidence, and I think the jokes will start on Twitter, and that seems to mess with his head quite a bit. So, yeah, I think he is key. I'm probably the biggest Toney fan. I loved him in the draft. I loved him at the Giants. I wanted the Chiefs to trade for him. I've got his jersey. It hasn't arrived yet, annoyingly, for opening night, but I've ordered his white Chiefs jersey. So I think he'll be very good, but yeah, maybe not as much. The question for Chiefs fans is they've got 7 receivers, and Andy's talking like they're going to play all 7.
Yeah.
So I just don't know what that's going to look like. Not many teams play 7 ever, and not many of them actually give them snaps, but they're talking like, we're going to have 7 guys up. They're all going to be active. They're all going to get snaps. So for me, I think it's going to be a bit of a nightmare if you're trying to be the DC on week 1, because I just don't think you're going to know where these players are going to line up. I think Sky Moore will probably be the actual one who gets the most receptions, but MVS is just that deep threat down the field that one catch for him and you're talking 40, 50 yards normally with Mahomes.
Yeah, you mentioned Sky Moore, you mentioned MVS, you've got Justin Ross in there as well, as long as many others. the key sort of question for me is, how do you think the offensive line's going to look? Because you've got two new tackles in Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor on either side. It's a bit of a change from Orlando Brown and Andrew Wiley from last year. What do you think is going to look like?
Yeah, so we spoke about this on the preview, didn't we? That I'm quite high on the offensive line. I think this probably isn't the week to test it. Aiden Hutchinson's very good pass rusher. After that, there's not a lot with this team. So if I'm there,
you've got Charles Harris, who has a good year about 2 years ago, and he was awful for the Dolphins before that. So
yeah, and they've got a lot of the guys to stop the run. That's what they want to do. They want to make you pass it into two safety looks. So they're good at stopping the run. But so I think if I'm them, I go Aiden Hutchinson line up next to Donovan Smith the whole game and just see how many times you can beat him and see if he kind of has the issues he had last year. But personally, I'm quite high on them on the line. I love Jawan Taylor. I think he's one of the best pass blockers in the league from the right tackle spot anyway. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I could see them struggling to run the ball. So against this front, maybe the offensive line's not quite as good at running the ball because Orlando Brown was a mammoth of a man. So I think we could see issues with that. But I think from the past game, I think the line will be fine. I'm actually quite excited. There's been a lot of talk from Chiefs camp. This is the best line that Mahomes has ever had. I know he said it himself. But yeah, we'll find out. But I think Donovan Smith versus Aiden Hutchinson will be the key battle because if I'm the Lions, I think you just say to him, don't even bother trying the other side. Just go that side the whole game, and hopefully they don't Joe Tooney you and double you up with him. But I think they'll be fine, but I do think they'll struggle to stop the run. You'll see those 3rd and 1s where you think, okay, right, Chiefs are going to get a first down, and they'll get -1 yards, and everyone watching at home will be like, why can't the Chiefs complete a 1 yard run? It's like, yeah, this is a common story for the Chiefs. But I think overall they should be fine. Touch wood.
They'll be going to go up against the Lions defense, which is the secondary certainly is pretty much entirely new. They've added Emmanuel Mosley from San Francisco, Cam Sutton from Pittsburgh, and CJ Gardner-Johnson from Philadelphia. Emmanuel Mosley's questionable, which is an interesting one. He's had a sort of a long camp, let's just say that. But they spent a lot of money on it. They were 30th in yards per game last year, and they're facing the best passing offense from last year too. So it's a very tough start for basically the Lions' entire hope on defense.
Yeah, and also I am biased, but this is my worry if I was a Lions fan or if I was watching the game as a neutral. I think Mahomes has never scored. He's never lost on week 1, but he's never scored less than 31 points, I don't think, on week 1. Yeah. Andy's average is 28 points with every quarterback he's ever had on week 1. I don't think this defense is the defense that can stop them. I do quite like Cameron Sutton, obviously signed from Pittsburgh. He's a pretty good corner. Obviously, CJ Gardner-Johnson is a good corner, but Chiefs killed him in the Super Bowl and targeted him quite a lot. So I think they'll probably do that again. I love Brian Branch in the draft. I think he was really good. He'll play probably safety or nickel next to CJ. So I think there's some good names there. But I think the other side, so Emmanuel Mosley, Jerry Jacobs, Kirby Joseph, if they play Tracy Walker, who's obviously a lot older now, I just don't think they're there. And obviously, like I said, if you've only got one pass rusher for me that can generate pressure, I think Mahomes with time against this secondary is a bit of a worry because, like you said, they're so new, aren't they? A lot of these guys have never played together before because they didn't play much in preseason either, did they? So for me, I think it's the passing defense. The run defense, I think, will be good. But if I was a Lions fan, I'd be worried about the pass defense. What do you think about Brian Branch? Think he'll start as safety, or do you think they'll play him at like slot corner?
I look at PFF and they've got him listed as nickel, the nickel, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, he's one of those versatile players that can play in multiple sports. That's what a lot of, especially it's probably why what people look for in safeties as well, which is why it's sort of less valuable because if you can play multiple positions, especially in obviously it doesn't really matter here, but someone like Vic Fangio, for example, he likes two safeties back deep. Whereas someone like a New England defense wants you to do multiple things, and it's just what you want really. You mentioned obviously Andy Reid in week 1. I mean, the other saying as well is Andy Reid you don't want to play on a bye week either because him going off the bye has got that terrific record. It's just he's one of those coaches that you want to play on like a Thursday night, midway through the season. That's when you want to when you beat the Chiefs, isn't it? Because this game is just terrific.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's their issue. And if you're a Lions fan, I think you just say we're probably going to give up loads of points, but most people do against Mahomes. Let's just go score more. Like I think with Chris Jones not being there, going back to the other side of the ball, I think that's their mindset. It can't be this game's going to be 21-24. It has to be, we've got to score 30-odd points. I know they won't want to go into a game thinking their defense is going to get killed, but I think in their heart of hearts, they have to prepare for, like, we need to be so aggressive on special teams, on offense, maybe a bit more aggressive on defense. They didn't blitz loads last year. Maybe you just chuck a couple of random all-out blitzes. Yeah, you may get burned, but there's a chance you may force a turnover, and a couple of turnovers against the Chiefs kind of as a bit of a lifesaver. I know they can score points, but you probably feel like you can get 7 the other way every time. So, yeah, I think they'll be aggressive on defense because I just don't think they're good enough to sit back and do the whole long drive game. Because I just think the Chiefs will score enough points and the Lions will be then relying on Jared Goff to drop back time and time again. So, yeah, I think the defense is a bit of a write-off for them for this game. But, yeah, as the season goes, they'll get better. I know spoke about in the division preview that obviously I think they're favourites, aren't they, for their division this year. So I do feel like it'll get better throughout the season. But week 1, like you said, against Andy, especially in this scenario where I don't think they know what receiver's going to line up where, because a lot of these receivers, Sky Moore, Richie James, they didn't play them hardly at all. They rested them the whole preseason and they only got 2 drives each at times. So I think you just don't know what you're going to prepare for. So I think it'll be a fun night for the neutral because there'll be a lot of points.
Yeah, Andy Reid's one of those coaches who likes to get a preseason out of players as well. So that's he's one of because he's not like Sean McVay where he just doesn't play starters at all. He's one of those, he has most good players. Yeah, exactly. You mentioned obviously the fact that the Lions they're expected to let up some points. Well, pretty much every single Lions game last year felt like a shootout. They're in so many. At the start of the season, they lost quite a few, going sort of, it was 1-7 to start the year, but towards the end of the year, they were beating playoff teams pretty regularly, actually, towards the end of the season to win all those games at the end of the year. They were beating strong offenses, toe for toe. Yes, the defense was rubbish, but the offense was scoring 30, 40 a game, really. So it was as a game at the start of the year, they probably should have won against Miami, which was, I think it was like 35-37 to the Dolphins. But that game was one of the toughest games the Dolphins played last year.
I think this is this is the highest points total as well from a betting perspective all week. So 54.
It's 2 high-powered offenses.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think because of Chris Jones, especially, they're probably saying 2 weak defenses. Like, I'm a bit of a believer in the Chiefs' defense, but not from a pressure perspective. So I think, yeah, there's going to be a lot of points scored. And what do you think about this in terms of Dan Campbell? Right, isn't that the perfect coach for this scenario? He's going to say, "F it, go for everything."
Yeah,
he's going to be aggressive on 4th downs. He's a bit old school. He does punt when he shouldn't because he is old school, but down the stretch, that Bills game, that Packers game that they won, they were going for like 4th and 3s, fake punts. I feel like he's the perfect coach if they were going to go in and try and win an opening game when they're probably the weaker team, because I think he's going to be super aggressive. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, he's one of those coaches as well where he's kind of helped where he doesn't call plays, because obviously it's not the OC, he's not the DC either. It's like I think you can sort of focus on in-game decisions like that more because you don't have to worry about getting a play out there. I think for the Lions, the key to winning for them would be the pass defense obviously has to step up. You can't turn the ball over. That's the other thing. Being aggressive, and obviously winning the ground battle as well, making sure that you sort of carry on where you're rushing last year. Yeah, that's another thing that if the Lions are to win those games, I think you've got to really keep those areas to pretty much mistake free, pretty much, and or not turn the ball over.
Yeah, I know it's easy to say, especially about stuff like turnovers, but I think red zone as well. Like the Chiefs 2 years ago had a really bad red zone offense. Last year, they were back to those kind of crazy plays that scored touchdowns all the time. And the Lions were one of the best as well. Jamal Williams got so many touchdowns from like 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. This is the sort of game where for the Lions, you can't be getting into the Chiefs 10 and scoring 2 field goals because it's like, that's just not going to happen. And similar to the Chiefs, I think the Lions offense can be so good. If they do start slow, obviously first game, banner night, if 2 red zone trips turn to 2 field goals there, it's like, okay, wow, Ben Johnson's probably going to be able to score enough points to make this really interesting now. So yeah, I agree with you. I think turnovers is key for both teams. The Chiefs will be trying to desperately get them. And the Lions didn't get many last year either. So they'll be trying to get some. And then I think red zone offense for both teams is going to be crucial. I don't think it's not a game you're going to win with field goals.
Yeah, the Chiefs as well, they've got to try and deal with Amon-Ra St. Brown, because if they can take away him, then that creates a lot of opportunity for the defense to deal with the rest of them, because he is their major threat.
Yeah, I expect them to double him. It's quite weird though, because a lot of the teams that kill the Chiefs have good outside receivers, and then it's kind of the wide receiver 3 or tight end 2 that, or some RGP Ryan from those Bengals games that give me nightmares. And you actually do a good job against the best players, but I almost wonder this time, because he is a slot, are they going to just say, the guys on the outside, let's leave them one-on-one and just take some risks? But yeah, cornerback 3 for the Chiefs, so the guy will be playing opposite, probably Snead, I guess, depending how they line up. But we haven't had a good cornerback 3 all off season. Last year they were really good, 2 young guys from the draft, but this year not as good. So I do think they might leave him one-on-one and take some risks, and then, like you said, just double St. Brown with a safety and see if someone else can beat you. But I do love Sam Laporta, so I'm expecting. I kind of want him to do well, but they're not quite well enough to win the game. But I was preaching from him in the draft, so I want him to do well. Plus, he's wearing 87, right? So 87 against the Chiefs. Travis Kelce on the other side. It's a pretty cool story. But yeah, we'll see. I think for them, that just needs to be really, really aggressive, which I think it'll be a fun game for neutrals, because Dan Campbell's a bit of a maniac, isn't he? So.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Sam Laporta in I think 2 of my 4 fantasy leagues, so I'm hoping he has a good night too. To be honest with you, I think I'm only going to start him in one of them, but he's one of those players that obviously he's a rookie, so you don't know what he's going to produce whatsoever. But it sounds like he's going to have a very good camp, and he was. I'd probably say, well, he was one of my favorite tight ends in the draft. So I watched all of them. Because I thought the Dolphins would draft one and they didn't, and they're still rocking up with Durham Smythe and undrafted Julian Hill at tight end, but to be honest with you, they don't use the tight ends in the offense because you have all the speed. So it's basically you just, as long as you can block like George Kittle or to a level, that's what they want in that offense, to be honest with you. But
Sam Laporta, unfortunately for him, can't block.
Well,
like George Kittle,
he's an Iowa tight end who can't block, which isn't as he's not a blocker that Kittle or Hockenson or any of the others are.
No.
It's one of those weird things. Like I wrote that, I did a piece on the website. I wrote about all of them, and I found that really interesting how he's like the opposite of a number one Iowa tight end. But he's passing, he's really, really good, and I'd probably say, other than maybe Dalton Kincaid, he was the best pass catching tight end in the draft.
Yeah, I'd agree. Who do you think on the other end? So speaking of tight ends, Travis Kelce's the guy, right, for the Chiefs. So we haven't spoke about him, and I know obviously he'll be key to the game plan. Who do you think guards him from their perspective? Because teams obviously struggle. Do they go corner, safety? Sometimes they're too small. Linebackers often get killed. Like, I'm presuming they're not going to go Jack Campbell, right? What would you think in terms of who's going to guard him? It's
weird, isn't it? It's like, I mean,
they haven't got an obvious name, have they?
I'd put a corner on Travis Kelce, to be honest with you. But that's what I did, because a lot of teams tend to put safeties and tight ends, but he's that good of a receiver that he can. He's quite twitchy compared to a lot of tight ends. Like, his movement's so fluid that I probably would put a corner on him. But it's just whether you put a slot guy on there, and so maybe you go for Gardner Johnson or Brian Branch. But it's just like.
I was thinking Branch.
Welcome to the NFL. Welcome to the NFL moment for Brian Branch. Showing it. You got to guard Travis Kelce. It's like,
I think CJ Gardner Johnson would want the task, but he did not do a good job of it in the Super Bowl. So I think the Lions would be quite smart. Yeah, it could be Branch, but I think it depends. If Mosley's not healthy, I think then you're just like, I just don't know who's going to do it. So I'd expect Travis Kelce and Sam Laporta to have good nights against these defenses, I think.
Yeah, if you've got him in fantasy, start them. Well, you're going to start Kelce anyway. But I've got Mahomes in. I've got a league of a few FNY people, and I've got Mahomes in that league. So I was right at the back of the first round. So I thought, let's go. I'll draft him. So
I've got a team that has Mahomes, Kelce, David Montgomery, and Sky Moore. I'm not going to say I'm going to start them all, but they're all in one of my teams, and I'm thinking, like, I could just go all in. I don't know how much David Montgomery's going to play, but I think there'll be some fantasy points scored in this game for sure.
For sure. Okay, so let's get to the part of the podcast where we predict the game. As we say, we'll pick the score, and then obviously we'll start with the over or under with the Chiefs 6.5 points, and we'll go for the prediction. So I'm going to go for the under. Actually, I think it'll be a close game. The 6.5. I think the Chiefs win 29-27. I've got a feeling that if everything goes well for the Lions, then it'll be really close, and I think maybe a Harrison Butker field goal at the death will be what wins it for you. I think that's what happens. But I think I'm hoping for a close game as well, because obviously you mentioned it. Last year's game was rubbish between the Bills and the Rams.
Yeah, it was.
And my 13-4 Rams prediction was looking really bad from the start of the season. So
well, have you made a 13? Have you made a 13-4 Lions projection? Then I'll feel quite good.
I had them at 9-8. So, but I had the Rams issue at 3-14, which is like the complete opposite.
They scorned you. So that's it now.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah,
Are you going to go for the over or the under?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I go over, and I haven't really actually thought about what my score would be. So I think I'm going to go 35-24 to the Chiefs, which obviously gets us to 59 over under 54.5. So yeah, 35. Yeah, I think 35-24. So I still think they'll score points, but I think it'll be one of them cases where Chiefs have that drive in the third quarter to get it to 2 scores, and then they kind of just manage the game from there. But I think early on it'll be really exciting, and I think you'll have the whole thing on Twitter, like about the Lions, because the Lions are a bit of everyone's favorite team, aren't they?
Yeah, they're very much, especially after their Hard Knocks stint last year as well. They're sort of like they're everyone's sort of favorite second team, because Dan Campbell's such a nice guy to root for, and
he is. Yeah, and I almost guarantee you, if they get the ball first, which they probably will, because the Chiefs always want the ball second, they'll score a touchdown on their first drive. I can bank on that now. But yeah, I think it'll be. I won't say 38-27, but I've gone for 35-24, a little bit less scoring. But I think it'll still be a fun game, and it'll just be kind of push out at the end rather than like a blowout. I think it'll be close in the first half. So yeah, should be a fun game. It'll be loud as well, so it'll be a nice atmosphere for us over here to watch on telly. So
yeah, I mean, the Arrowhead's one of the best stadiums in the NFL, and it's probably on my bucket list to get there as like number 1 or number 2. I can't wait to watch a World Cup game there as well, and in the 2026 World Cup, that's going to be really, really cool to watch, because if you get a couple of massive fan bases in there, that's going to be an electric atmosphere for sure.
Yeah, well, I've seen the Chiefs win there and lose there, and either way, the atmosphere's electric. And like you said, yeah, they got given World Cup games, so an England game, an Arrowhead, and maybe another one in like Superdome, something like that in New Orleans. That could be quite a cool little trip, couldn't it? To be fair.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely want to go to the World Cup. Whether I even go to a stadium or not, I think just going there and watching it in the States would be great. Just because big for the game over there. To be honest with you. But that'll do us for this podcast. It's kind of hard to talk for more than half an hour really about one game, because you're just going over the same points again and again and again. But you can join us for the next podcast on Friday, our big week 1 preview show with me and Charlie Grace, to kick off the season. That'll be posted probably on Friday night. Put it in your inbox so you can listen to it on Saturday or Sunday morning when you're gearing up for the games on Sunday evening. Thank you for coming on again, Liam. It's been great to have you. I'll make sure you're on a couple of times throughout the season for sure, and you're welcome to come on to one of the big weeks previews as well for sure. But thanks for coming on, mate.
Yeah, cheers, mate. It'd be nice. I'll come on and not have to talk about the Chiefs 1 week and give my views on the other teams, but. No, it should be good. I'll be looking forward to the podcast with you guys dropping on Friday for me to, or Saturday morning for me to listen before Sunday's games. So yeah, should be good. And yeah, just a reminder if anyone wants to come meet us to just go to the website and honestly sign up and come to the event on Sunday, because it will be really, really fun. It'll be nice to see everyone. And it's always good when you can either give people stick or for their team, or you can just enjoy a fun game with some fellow fans. So yeah, should be good. Thanks for having me on.
That's all right, mate. Looking forward to seeing you all, and I'm looking forward to meeting you at the weekend as well, mate.
And you.
There we are. I'll see you next time.